Hello. Thank you again for joining us for this particular segment dealing with the subject of grief. Now, we've shared several hours on this topic as far as that's concerned, and it's our goal is to try to cover it thoroughly, and it's not the idea that you're going to sit down and focus through all of it and learn it all in one setting. Our goal here is for you to watch it for a while, even take notes on it, or share it in conversation, use it in a group. But then again, with the whole idea that you can keep coming back to it and seeing how your circumstance fits what we're talking about, and then maybe finding some ideas of what you can do with your circumstance. You see, with all of this, what I find with a lot of people, I hear this expression, you're going to think I'm crazy, but, and they want to tell me what they're going through when it comes to the subject of grief. And my answer to them is, no, you're not crazy. It's all about the idea of, yes, these are ways people will respond to grief. And as long as you're not hurting yourself or someone else, okay, that's the big guideline of it all. As long as you're not hurting yourself or someone else, then what ways you find to help yourself going through the grieving process, that's so important to you. And it doesn't mean that you're crazy because not everybody does it the same way. It doesn't mean that you're not normal because, again, the idea of normal grief is not the concept that everybody does it the same way. Well, I got to fit into this person's pattern. No. Again, the whole guideline, and I'll say it one more time, as long as you're not hurting yourself or someone else, then that's the key. You use that as a guideline. You don't want to be hurting yourself. And we've already talked about the many ways when we talked about complicated grief and so forth. We've already talked about the many ways we can do damage to ourselves. And so I don't want to go over that. But what I want to do in this segment is talk about holidays. Anniversaries and holidays makes grief very, very difficult. And so I want to share with you some things that we can do to make it less difficult. I'm not going to make it easy, and I don't even want to use that term because grief is work. They call it grief work. So grief is work. It's not something that, okay, I'll make it a lot easier if I do this or this or this. That's not necessarily so. So I want to warn you, the idea we're not trying to make it easy, but we're trying to find ways that we can help ourselves. And the irony of that is that each one will find ways that help themselves maybe a little different than others. And even what I share with you as we go through our thoughts today, grief at Christmas time, and really this works for all holidays, and we'll share with you why that is in just a moment. But it works, again, with the whole idea is that some things that you can come up with. Really, I don't know what you're going through. I've already made the statement that I don't want to tell you I understand your grief, because even though I've been through grief, it doesn't necessarily mean that I understand yours. So my goal in all of this is just to share some guidelines, and you can find some ways yourself because you know how you're dealing with it. And as you face circumstances and situations, you can deal with your grief in a way maybe that no one else does, because we're just giving you guidelines here and you're learning to adjust. Grief is a growing process. It's a very educational circumstance. You grow, you learn as you deal with it and all of this. And again, it's not a case of instructions. Even when you've got a whole book of instructions, it doesn't mean that it's going to be for you the same way that the book put it. My problem with that is sometimes that it won't fit for me the way it comes out of this book. So, there must be something wrong with me. No, it doesn't always fit. And even some of the things we say here, if you find it difficult, my goal is to give you some a perimeter to work in the sense of finding ways to help yourself. So it's not as, okay, if I do this, this is going to happen. It doesn't always work that way. So my goal is just to give you some guidelines, some thoughts that you might think about in the sense of finding ways to overcome grief during the holidays. Again, it's not something you're going to put behind us. You don't, when we say overcome grief, it's learning to live with it, learning to deal with it. It's not a matter of forgetting. It's not a matter of getting over it. It's a matter of learning to live with the pain of my loss. We said before, grief is not about death. Grief is about loss. And loss is an event where things will be forever different. Well, let's look at what holidays are. Holidays are about memories of things the way they used to be. Can you realize then why it makes it more difficult? for grieving during the holiday? Because here's something that is now forever different, and now on these holidays gives me memories of the way it used to be, and it's like starting all over again. The things that were out of mind because we were going through the routines of life, and now suddenly we hit this roadblock where memories comes to the surface, and it's like, oh man, I can remember what we used to do here. Oh, how much fun we had there. And then it's a reminder that those things will never happen again. Again, it's a matter of going back to square one almost and doing it all over again. And so with that, I want you to keep in mind the fact that that again, in the grieving process, you'll find those days when you thought you had it all behind you and you were doing good, and then all of a sudden, right there, you're starting all over again, wondering what's wrong with me. Well, there's nothing wrong with you. It's the way grief works in our lives. And again, the whole picture of all of it is becoming stronger when we face those moments. As I learn to deal with it, I get a little stronger each time. It's not a matter of getting over. It's not a matter that I'm forgetting someone or I got to put this behind me. No, it's a matter of getting stronger when I deal with each thing that is new. And this is where the holidays can be helpful. Remember what I described now. It's so painful because it's about the memories of traditions. But the same fact you've got to remember is that as I deal with the new things, with the new traditions and so forth, then I can realize that, okay, I'm getting stronger each time. So again, and let me challenge you with that, because I've heard people tell me that the second, okay, let's talk about Christmas. The second Christmas after we've lost someone is even worse than the first. And that's very conceivable. Because one of the things I run into, and as I've talked with people, again, this information I get is what people have shared with me in working with the grief support group for the years and all of this. One of the things that I find about people is that after the second year, they think you should be all over it. So therefore, don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden, you're not over it. And they don't know how to respond to you. And you don't know how to respond to them because they think you should be over it. What confusion. What confusion. But the bottom line, and I don't want to frighten you, to think that, okay, next Christmas is going to be worse than this Christmas or next holiday. Incidentally, I use Christmas, and I'm going to share with you why when we talk here, start making comparison about what makes it difficult at Christmas time. But this works with all holidays. You see, the difference is, what was the holiday to you and your loved one together? Some people, holiday was, a certain particular holiday was about family reunions. And obviously, the family reunion is going to be very difficult when your loved one's not there with you. You feel like, am I still part of the family? Especially if we're talking that it was a family reunion on your loved one's side, that you're the deceased side, and it's like, oh, I don't even feel like I'm part of the family. They don't even treat me the same way and all this. Who knows? These are things that we cannot understand and deal with ahead of time. We have to just wait and take it one day at a time. We have to work through it one day at a time. So with this in mind, I want to talk to you about, again, the picture of grief, and we're going to reiterate some of the things we've said in the others, but only because I want to show you why it makes it difficult in the holidays. Now, again, all of this, in making it, speaking of how it makes it difficult, before we get through, I want to share some things of how you can deal with it, okay? So I'm going to lay the foundation by sharing, yes, it makes it difficult. But in so doing, I think I want to try to give you some things to look for, why it makes it difficult, but then we're going to go to the idea of what can you do to make it different. Okay? So first of all, again, it's the idea, we've already said this, and I don't want to repeat myself too many times, but it's the idea that grief is about loss. Loss is an event where things will never be the same, and holidays, anniversaries, about remembering things. That's what they exist for, to remember the things, the traditions that we've done over and over the years. And so that's one of the reasons it makes it more difficult. But let's go back to the idea of grief being about loss. Again, the whole idea of causes of grief, the loss of a loved one. That's one of the things that makes it so difficult. The loss of a loved one. But I do these seminars on the subject of grief during the holidays and during the Christmas season on an annual basis. We've done it, well, now I don't know what time you're looking at this, but we've been at least 6 years now we've been doing this. And one particular year it was interesting because there was a real loss of jobs in the area. That whole area faced a lot of unemployment. And I thought to myself, okay, the loss of a job causes things to be forever different. End result, we've now got the loss of a job during the holiday seasons. Last Christmas we could afford this and this and this. This Christmas we can't because, and can you see the grief then? We can't have Christmas like last year, especially when you're dealing with children and wanting this present, wanting that present. A commercial world out there, and that's one thing I want to focus on in a moment. That commercial world out there making those demands and children hearing the things that are available. I want this, Dad. I want this, Mom. I want this. I want this. But whoops, we don't have the money this year. Again, it causes it to be a grief time. Another thing that we looked at was the idea of a loss of a job, yes, but retirement too is one of the things that a lot of people don't focus on. I was surprised that there's a lot of people that face retirement and don't realize how much grief comes with it. And the grief is there because life is now forever different. The grief is there because we've now got a fixed income and we can't spend the way we used to. We've got to budget things more and all of this. It does cause a time of grief. Again, moving. We said this before in one of the other segments. Moving from one place to the next makes a lot of changes for us. What happens if I move from one place to the next and the traditions aren't the same? Well, again, don't forget this. A lot of the traditions of Christmas is about family gatherings. But if I move away from the family, maybe we won't get to gather anymore. Maybe we won't get to be together anymore. Maybe we'll have to skip this Christmas because it was such an expense of traveling and all of this, and it's such an expensive move. All of these things cause the Christmas to be different. And so with that, then, there comes that element of memories that say things won't be the same. And there comes then the idea of grief coming in on us. Okay, divorce, we mentioned that before, is a painful cause of, again, the picture being different, a painful cause of grief because things are now different. And we don't want to go rehearsing that over again, but think of it in the light of your Christmas setting. Think of it in light of the way you celebrated your holiday before. Okay, think of the light of your anniversaries too. The things you did together to focus on memories and the anniversary of the wedding itself. And all of a sudden, it's now forever different because you're not a couple anymore. And how about the birthdays that you celebrated together? How about the children that we celebrated their birthdays together, but we're not going to do it together anymore because Mom and Dad are in different places, or in the case of the loss of a loved one, they're not there to help celebrate the birthday. What difference does that make to the child? I can remember one situation once where I was at the bedside of a dying person and the family was gathered around. And I could feel the heaviness when the thought was shared. He was going to be passing away. Well, he did pass away on one of the days during the middle of the week. And all of a sudden I realized they were talking about it. The daughter was to be married that Saturday. And he wouldn't be there to give her away. Oh, when you look at the idea of the memory of a wedding and all of this, an enjoyable day, but then to put that cloud over that, to put that feeling over it. My understanding was they went ahead with the wedding because he wanted that. He wanted that before he passed. But again, the picture of the grief that's connected with it, the loss that's connected with it. So with all of this, let's look at something else. We've talked about this before, but when we've lost a loved one, needs many times go unmet. That brings one more complication to the grieving process, the needs that aren't met. Now, I've shared with you before Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need, and I'll just allude to it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because we've talked about it before, but I want to tie all of this into the Christmas setting, the holiday setting, the Thanksgiving, and it depends. And some of you, Christmas isn't the most, the greatest holiday for you. Some of you, it was other times. As a matter of fact, Thanksgiving becomes a big family holiday as far as getting together and all of that. So again, these things is what makes it different. It's like they won't be there anymore. Well, let's look at the unmet needs that makes it more difficult. Abraham Maslow created a list of 7 basic needs. In these 7 basic areas, okay, the physical needs, the physical presence of that person. Or if you're talking about exchanging of presents at Christmas time, that's a physical part. Those are things that are visible, that are tangible, that you hold on to. But it won't be the same anymore. And you won't be getting a present from this person anymore. And with all of this kind of a picture, you see, okay, there's physical needs that aren't being met. And then you go through the idea of security needs. Again, one of the problems, okay, this is the first Christmas without the main paycheck coming in, because that's the person we lost, the supplier of a household and so forth. And like now, here goes the feelings of security. And again, the whole idea is you think you've got everything adjusted because you've been working through all of the necessary insurance papers and all the deeds and so forth. One of the most difficult things about a grieving process is changing names on papers and documents and so forth. It's like a realization that they're not there anymore. I've got to move their name off of this and that. Then you come into the Christmas holiday and it's like, their name isn't on the Christmas card list anymore and so forth. Let me throw a big question mark there. Why? This I'm going to throw to you as a possibility. It might help you a whole lot in the Christmas setting when you send out Christmas cards. Put the person's name on there. It's not as if that you just wipe them out of your memory at Christmas time. Make them part of your Christmas in the sense of your Christmas cards, your name and the name of the loved one that's lost. Put their both names on there. Keep that alive. That's something you can do. And again, if you're one that receives a card with that, don't think it's strange because it's got the name of both persons on it. Don't think that's wrong because it's a matter of keeping that memory alive. Okay? It's not a matter of, no, you got to let go, you got to forget, you got to put it behind you. No. You don't have to do that. That's the problem I find with the grieving system, that people say, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. I'm telling you, you don't have to. You're the one that's going to know when you want to make a change like that. But the bottom line with all of it is after you've gone through all of this process of changing the names on documents and so forth, and now at Christmas time, put the name on there, include it. Matter of fact, one of the things I like to suggest to people is to do programs or activities that your loved one would want them to do. That is, when I say that, programs or activities, I mean go to certain functions where they have food for the homeless and so forth, and be there. But when you're there, wear the name of your spouse, your loved one there. Do it in their memory. One of the problems I run into, and we're going to see this in a moment, is the guilt that, oh, how can I celebrate at Christmas time when they're not here anymore? And it gives you a guilt feeling. Do it in their memory. Do these things in a positive way so that you are moving on, but at the same time, you're not forgetting your loved one. One of the biggest problems with moving on is the guilt of, oh, I'm leaving them behind. You don't have to leave them behind. Take them with you in your memories and your traditions and so forth. Okay, again, acceptance, the need to belong. One of the things I find in holidays that makes it even worse is, well, we won't invite so-and-so because she's going to be too sad or he's going to be too sad, so let's not invite him. Oh, friend, let me tell you, if that is one of the thoughts in your mind, do not do that. Let me suggest to you what you can do for those individuals. You can invite them, but leave the door open in the sense of it's up to them, okay? It's up to them. You can invite them. They do need to be included. They do want to know that they're still accepted. But with that, then, also leave the door open. I would like you to do this and so forth. Could you come to this? But leave the door open. I understand if you can't. Now, let me challenge those of you that are willing to go to these kind of activities and so forth. Leave yourself a door open in the sense, well, I would like to come. I really thank you for asking me. I'd like to come. If I can't stay for the whole thing, would it be all right for me to leave? Work in with the person and don't put demands on them that's too much for them, but give them the invitation. Let them decide for themselves what is too much and work with them in all of these kind of things. When you have functions that you invite them to in the holiday season, you want to make them feel accepted. So what do? Put some boxes of tissues around it just in case the crying starts. Now, why? Because we don't want to pass tissues to them, because it's like saying, well, stop crying. I'm not comfortable with it. But if we leave them around, we are telling them, well, it's okay to cry. That's why the tissues are there. You can help yourself to them when they're ready, and so forth. But the bottom line, again, is we want to know, we make them know that they are included. We accept them for what they're going through. We want to journey with them. And this is what we said about grief, especially in the holidays. We want to journey with them through the grieving process. So with that in mind, then, this acceptance and making them feel they belong in activities. But again, leaving the door open so that they can decide what's too much. Don't make demands on them, but let them decide. Yeah, whenever you feel like you have to leave, feel free to leave. Won't be a problem. What about the idea of the person's name coming up? Let me challenge you, if you're one of the ones facing the loss. If you go in and you bring the name up, you go into the group and you bring the name up, it's going to be beautiful in the sense of, okay, then they won't have to walk on eggshells. They won't have to wonder, well, there we mentioned his name. I don't want her to feel bad. I don't want him to feel bad. Okay? Now, when I say bring the name up, okay, so you go to a meeting at a dinner or a special dinner. Okay, you want to bring something along for the dinner. If someone volunteers to bring something along, the grieving person volunteers to bring something along, let them do it. And let them bring one of the favorite dishes. Now here it is. We're trying to break the ice, okay? So we've got a favorite dish that my husband loved. And so I want to make this, and then we put it on the table. That's the one he loved the most. So what have I done now? I've included him in the activity. Right, I've included him in the activity. I've made the others feel it's okay to talk about him, and I can actually open up conversation about him. No, we don't have to spend all the time talking about the lost loved one, but we've torn the wall down. We've broken the ice so that we can feel free, that if the name comes out, we can talk about things. Oh, I remember when, and all of this. Again, you're making the person feel accepted. And again, if you're the individual, you're opening the door so that they don't have to feel uncomfortable with you. Finding ways to share your experience. Then again, dealing with the subject of the guilt. Again, one of the problems there is guilt that comes with the grieving process. But if you look at this concept, is part of the guilt is, oh, I can't celebrate. I feel guilty because I can't sing Christmas songs when it's my Savior's birthday that we're honoring and all of this. But I can't sing them because he is lost or she is lost. She's not here to sing them with me. So now I feel guilty. Emotions that come with grief during the holidays, during the special activities. So my challenge to you is be aware of them, and make plans for them. Make plans to deal with them. Again, bringing my loved one along. One of the things I like to do is, like to recommend is that maybe your loved one would want to be part of serving dinners for people and so forth. And I can just picture you being so proud of having a lapel pin there with your loved one's name on it, and you're now serving and caring for others in memory of. You didn't leave them behind. You're enjoying doing something, and I'm saying you're going to enjoy it because here's what happens. Happiness comes from giving, not taking. That's right. How do you find happiness? If you seek happiness, you focus on something or someone, and the end result of it is when you get it, it's not what you thought it was. On the other hand, when I make someone else happy, I feel a happiness. When I do something for someone else, I feel good. Now, let me tell you, in this holiday season, let me question you. Would you rather have it a season that would remember your loved one in a positive way? What would your loved one want? Would they want to be remembered in the sadness and the gloom, or would they want to be remembered in a positive way of a celebration and so forth? And this is one of the things that you can do, taking their memory on in a positive way, celebrating their name, celebrating their influence upon yourself, celebrating their influence in the group and so forth. Very important you keep that in mind. Acceptance. Self-esteem is another great need. It's one need of every human being. Maslow's list. And a lot of people feel that, okay, they don't deserve to be part of a party or something like that because they've lost their loved one. Is that really what you think your loved one would feel? Is that really the way you should look at it? And one of the reasons people look at that way is because others might say, well, we won't invite them. We don't want them to feel hurt or feel out of place. You're thinking of their self-esteem. You're thinking of how they feel about themselves, how they view themselves in relationship to the others in the group and so forth. Please include them in the group. Again, with the idea of the clarification, give them the room as to how much they can share. And let's put it this way. If they cannot come the first time, don't give up on the next holiday. Don't give up on the next activity. If they turn you down one time, remember this is a growing process. So bear with them, and on another activity they might say, okay, I'll be part of that. Maybe some activities would be somewhere you can give a greater loophole where they can come in and out and so forth as they feel freedom. It's about them feeling free to be themselves, even if it's a grieving process, to feel free to be themselves in these activities. The need to know and understand. This is so important. What they need to know, again, there's a lot of questions that come with the loss of a loved one. But what I'm discovering is they need to know that someone else still cares. They need to understand that the loved one's memory goes on for others and not just for themselves. Again, the idea of talking about the person. Most people that are going through a grieving process and others won't mention the name and so forth, they want the name mentioned. They want you to know that this person has been part of their life, and they want to know how much a part of your life that person has been. They want to talk about that individual. They don't want you to try to pretend that it doesn't exist or that she doesn't exist. So again, you'll feel your way through these parties and these activities, but include them in the activities. Family reunions, Christmas parties, Thanksgiving holidays, 4th of July activities. Include them. Let them decide whether they can come or not. Okay? Fulfillment need, the need to feel them needed. Oh, that's important. When they come, invite them. Again, it's up to them whether they can do it or not, but ask them if they would like to bring a dish, if they'd like to do something, and so forth. Again, the whole idea, make them feel that they've got something to do. They are needed. We really would love to have you. We need to have you here because on whatever reason you want to say, however it fits your family setting, I can't put all of that in there for you. But you need to know that they need to be needed. So include them in it. And if they volunteer to bring a dish or something, oh, that would be great. What kind of a dish would you want to give? What would be his favorite dish? What would be her favorite dish? And so forth. Okay? Again, appreciation of beauty. That becomes so important. That's one of the 7 basic needs. And that becomes so important because a lot of times we expect people to be just out there, oh, you didn't even appreciate this dinner. Now, wait a minute. You still got to let them be themselves. Okay? So if they don't follow through with all of your expectations, if they don't do everything you expect them to do, please acknowledge the fact that they are there and you want them there. However they want to express themselves, you open the door, you want them there, you want to include them. It's not about the whole idea of, okay, because she didn't laugh at this particular joke, or she didn't do, okay, we've done something wrong. No, you don't have to feel that way. You don't have to feel that way. As a matter of fact, you'll probably make the grieving person feel worse if you do. Just feel free that they can be themselves. That's the bottom line. They can be themselves, and don't expect too much from them. I say that in connection with this with this concept of appreciation of beauty, because many times one of the illustrations I use will take the little boy out to the ball game after he's lost his father. And all of these things he's going through his mind, and we can't understand why he didn't get excited after I spent all that money on those tickets for the ball game. Why didn't he get excited? Well, he's got a lot on his mind. There's so many other needs that aren't being met. So with this, allow them the freedom to be themselves. Allow them the freedom to be themselves. And again, if they show that joy and happiness, that's great. That's great. But on the other hand, if they don't want to laugh at a particular joke, and don't make an accent of it, don't point out this or that. Don't, well, what's wrong? No, don't do that. They don't want to be plagued with questions of that nature. So please keep this in mind. Include them as you're looking at these needs that every one of us has. Just because they've lost a loved one, it doesn't mean that you'd handle that altogether different. No, you want to keep it in mind when you're including them. They need to be included. And so when you look at these needs, that's one of the ways you can include them, is by helping them find the answer to these needs in their life. Let's look at something else. We look at the confusion of what the person's going through and the heavy weight of the loss and all of that. But all of this, and this, as I've often said in some of the other tapes and YouTubes and so forth, that we look at this like a plate. You've got this plate before you, and the plate is getting fuller and fuller. Okay? Now, what we're looking at is all of these things that we mentioned about grief, all right? The losses, again, all of these different emotions related to the loss and all of that, and your plate is there with that. We look at the shock and denial that some go through. We look at the bargaining and the guilt and the anger and the depression and all of that. And this is a plate getting heavier and heavier. Now, let's look at the Christmas season. Okay? Do you realize, apart from all that we've already said, put that all on page 1 here. Let's go to page 2. Apart from all of that, do you realize that Christmas is the most depressing time of year? There are more suicides in January than any other time of the year. And one of the reasons is the Christmas holiday. Let's just think about it. We have so commercialized it. All right? Let's look at this and watch it unfold. We have, it's what we call the hype of Christmas. We have so commercialized it that it's filled with advertisements and excitement and songs and all of this, and bright lights and festivities and activities and so forth. And then Christmas Day comes. Okay? Let's talk about the buying of a present. I'm trying to think of what so-and-so would want. Oh, this, and it's me investing. This is what I think they would want. So I buy this thing. And I can't wait for the day that comes when they open that package and see what I bought for them. It's part of me. I gave part of me to them because of the way that I looked into this and all of that. And all of a sudden, in 30 seconds, it's all over. That's right. How long does it take to unwrap a package? So all of that excitement that built up to that, and poof, it's gone. You see what I'm talking about? The hype and the depression. So the exchange of gifts and all of that. And whoa, if it doesn't fit, if it's the wrong color, if they don't like it, oh my, here goes my ego. It's going lower and lower and lower. All that excitement is getting lower and lower and lower and lower. Then remember those bright lights? Oh, we got that exciting bright lights, but on the day after Christmas, the Christmas carols are now obsolete. The lights are down, off. Okay, all that stuff that was built for that one day is now falling by the wayside. Now what's coming next? Okay, if you're watching this here in the northeastern part of the U.S., one of the things I've discovered about Christmas is why, okay, let me ask you this way. Why is Christmas more depressing than Easter? Well, Easter's a lot about activities and so forth. And yes, I know the hype isn't quite as big, but it's getting there. But what's the major difference? After all of the hype is gone and all of the excitement is gone, what have you got? You've got several months now of bare trees, cold weather, snow, and all of this. End result, you've got to look for 2 or 3 months of depressing atmosphere. That's what we're looking at. When we look at the holidays, this is now a big hype that suddenly drops. And then, whoa, what if I spent too much? Oh, I get so excited about buying gifts. Maybe I spent too much on the gifts, and now I got to figure out how to make my budget work and so forth. And so January, that's right, there's more suicides at January than any other time of the year. And one of the reasons, yes, the seasons, the weather, all of that enters to it, but one of the reasons is the finances and so forth that deals with Christmas. So with all of this in mind, let me suggest to you, remember the plate? We're going to put all that on the plate too. Whatever else the grieving person's going through, we're putting all of the hype of Christmas and the depression that Christmas brings. One of the most difficult parts of the grieving process is depression. And now I just multiplied it by adding to it this holiday. That's what makes it so difficult. Now again, one of the things I've been trying to tell you again, I've been sort of hinting some things that you can do to help make it better. But let's look at this and so forth in a sense of how I can deal with it. Okay? Important keys for recovery is what I want to focus on. Number one, let me go with this list here. Number one, know that there is nothing wrong with feeling the way you're feeling. Okay? Whatever you're feeling, it's a feeling that's part of it. So don't feel guilty, don't feel frustrated because you're feeling not quite up to it. If you're feeling that, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. Yes, if you want to force yourself, but when you force yourself, you're going to feel guilty. There's nothing wrong with the feelings, okay? Number two, don't bury your feelings. These are things that you need to talk about. These are things that you need to tell people about. This is why I feel so important about the idea of the grief support group. Excuse me. It's so important to consider grief support group because here's where we get to talk about our feelings. Don't bury them. Don't keep them inside. And again, if you get a chance to go to a group, oh, you don't have to pour out feelings of sadness and make everybody feel sad, but you can let them know some of the things that makes you feel good, and oh, well, this is one of my biggest times, one of my most difficult things. You can tell people about that without destroying the whole family and the whole meaning and the the whole meeting. No, it doesn't have to be that way. But don't bury the feelings. And if you're the one on the other side of the coin trying to invite and include these people, don't make them bury their feelings. Take the time to share pictures and talk about things. Again, with their willingness to do so. But ask them some questions. How would he feel about this? How would she, what do you think she would think of this? And so forth. Again, finding the opportunity to share it. But you're allowed to talk about it. Again, I said this before and I want to say it again. One of the most difficult things that I have found for people going through grief is no one wants to talk about him. No one wants to talk about her. I want them to know that he's still with me. He's still in my heart and all of this. So don't be afraid to talk about them. Okay, talking about your feelings can help. Telling them what you're actually feeling. Why good days and bad days. What makes your day a good day? You can label it yourself. And so telling, well, when I get up in the morning, I hear this particular song. Or if this particular program is on TV, these are the things, okay? So don't be afraid to talk about your feelings. Okay, writing letters in a journal. Oh, awesomely important. Write down what's happening this Christmas season or this particular holiday. Write it down and compare it from the last one. Write down what you can remember about the last one and then how this one was different. One of the things you're going to discover, I like about journals, is the more you discover these things, the more you write them down, and then you come back the next year, and then the next year, you can see that you're making progress. You can see that you're getting stronger. Even if you're still struggling, you can see where, okay, well, we did this and we did this, so okay, I was okay when we did that. On the other hand, while you're writing them down, you might even set some goals for the next holiday. Next time, this one bothered me, so next time maybe we'll do this one instead. You can't always hold on to all the old traditions, but make new traditions, and if necessary, make them in memory of your loved one so that you're including them. This is what he would have liked to have done. This is what she would have wanted done. We never got to do this. We're going to do it in their memory now. Okay? So again, when you write these things down, you've got this in your memory that you can think of, okay, I want to do this now. I want to do this next time, and so forth. Revisiting in thought and conversation in the group and so forth. Again, with the person's permission, maybe you can even bring out a photo album. Okay? Maybe you can even ask them when you invite them to the activities and so forth. Ask everybody, bring along a picture of your family. And if they don't want to, don't force them. If they don't force them, but again, these are things that we could talk about and share so that the memory's kept alive and they get to talk about what they're feeling. And again, what's going to happen is that'll bring feelings to them. Again, I have to tell you, I don't know that this would fit everybody, but I'm throwing some things out there that would suggest to you that things you can do to make your holiday a little better. I already mentioned the idea of icebreakers, and I think one of the best is when you're having invited to a dinner someplace. Well, can I bring along this and so forth? And then again, when you put on the table, this was his favorite dish. Oh, she made this so good for me. I don't know if I can ever make it as good as she did, but this is her favorite dish and so forth. And now it becomes a conversation piece, opens the ice, or breaks the ice rather, so that we can now talk about the one we've lost and so forth. In a positive way, not in tears, but in a positive way. Okay, don't fear the crying. If it brings on the tears, don't be afraid of it. Have some tissues nearby. Don't offer the tissue, because again, it's a case of saying, well, I can't stand it, you got to stop crying. But leave the tissues where they can get it. If you see one looking around for one, then put them handy there where they can grab it and so forth. But the whole idea is okay to cry. Don't be afraid to cry. And if you want to cry along with them, that's going to say a whole lot to them. That's going to say you're feeling their feelings too. You're going along with those feelings. I think one of the biggest problems is that we hold back and we try to be stone-faced and we got to be sober for everyone else, when sometimes that can be interpreted in the wrong way. So work with whatever feelings they're expressing and so forth. Now there's many different things that we've talked about in the past that they go through. We've noted what psychologists have said about well, again, I don't like to use the word, but stages of grief or the grief cycle. Many of the feelings. Well, let's think about some of those feelings. The feeling of denial. Okay, first of all, how now do I rationalize with the denial? Okay, the thing of it is there's nothing I can do to change the past. I can't bring that person back. So I can't deny that. I've got to admit that. I can't deal with it, or let me put it this way. I am the only one that can bring myself through it. I can't let somebody else deal with it for me. I've got to be the one to deal with it. I've got to be the one to bring it through, to get through this and all of that. So again, with it, it's like this is where now I can say, well, let me create some new traditions. Just can't handle that tradition. That's just too much. New tradition. What would you think that your loved one would have liked to have done? What did they ever talk about some? Well, let's do this, but when we're doing it, this is what they wanted to do for so long. And now I want to do it in their memory. I want to keep their memory alive. So I want to do it in their memory. So rather than deny that their loss and deny your loss and so forth, again, the whole idea of it's okay, they're not here with me right now, but we'll do it in their memory. And we're going to go on and do these new traditions and these new thoughts and these new ideas. Okay? Guilt is one of the processes that a grieving person goes through. Guilt is a very definite struggle. There's the guilt of, what if I had, I should have done, and all of these things. I could change this. Well, number one, you know you can't go back and change it. So there's your denial and your guilt together. You have to deal with the denial, and what you now have to say is, I cannot change it, okay? It's real. There's no way I can go back and change it, so I don't have to struggle with the guilt of the past. Now, what about the guilt of the present? Again, I've shared with you before the idea of celebrating, but not being able to celebrate makes me feel guilty because everybody else is. And celebrating without my loved one makes me feel guilty. So what do? We find new ways to celebrate that includes the memory of our loved one. Here's the big question. Would you feel that that loved one would want you to have a memory of sadness? You feel that they want you to live in doom and gloom and sadness in their memory? Or do you think that they would want you to know joy? Do you think that they would want you to express joy to others? Okay? And let me challenge you again. I said it, but let me say it again. That when you make other people happy, you're going to find your happiness. And you can do that in the sense of, okay, so-and-so would have wanted you to be happy. I'm going to find ways to make you happy. And, I mean, we're talking about the grieving person helping others to be happy. Oh, it can be done. Don't tell me because you're going through so much grief you can't make somebody else happy. The kind word, the smile, the willingness to participate with them, the willingness to let them help you, all of that becomes something that makes other people feel happy. And by the same token, because your loved one wants them to feel happy, wants you to feel happy, You learn to do these things so that you can find the happiness and the joy, and you don't have to feel guilty that you left them behind, but you're doing it because you know they would want you to do it. You're doing it because you're doing it in their memory and so forth. Another one is the anger itself. Oh, yes, it's very much a part of the grieving process. Now, as far as handling the anger, we do have another YouTube I would refer you back to, is to go ahead back to that YouTube on the subject of anger management. It's very important. But the only thing I can tell you is anger is a powerful motivator. All right? It's a powerful motivator. God tells us to be angry and sin not. The difference is if the anger takes over. Anger comes secondly. There's first a hurt and then an anger. Now, if that anger takes over, then it's I want you to hurt. We say hurting things. We do hurting things. We want somebody else to hurt because we're hurting. No, anger is also a powerful motivator. And that anger can motivate you to say, I'm going to find some way to make somebody happy. Absolutely. That anger can motivate you to say, I don't want this Christmas to be one that I'm going to regret. I'm going to find some way to help someone else. I'm going to find some way to let my loved one's memory be there to make a difference for someone else, a positive difference. It's interesting how easy it can be done if we don't let the anger cloud our vision. If we don't let the anger control us. We need to find ways to express the anger in a very positive way, because now I'm getting the anger out, but I'm being satisfied with it. I'm not walking away with the guilt because I've let my anger in the wrong way. Okay, depression again. The depression, we've got another segment on the subject of depression, overcoming depression. I invite you to turn to that YouTube. But the thing of it is, when I just close the world out in the holidays, just grow in myself and turn into myself and so forth in the holidays, it just invites depression. You need to get out. One of the first things you need to do when going through depression is change your environment. So get out of your environment and go out. Go out. One of the problems of depression during the holidays, again, and this I challenged a congregation once, again, when everything comes to an abrupt end, okay, this is the way I challenged a congregation once. How about it doesn't have to be December 25th, doesn't have to be the only day of Christmas. You know that, all right? So what happens on January 25th if you send out greeting cards? Just tell them, I wanted to keep the Christmas season going, and here's a card for you to remember it. Put your loved one's name on it and so forth. How about if you find someone particularly, maybe one that your loved one thought so highly of on February 25th, and you sent them a little gift. Doesn't have to be expensive, but a little gift. I just want you to have this because they thought so highly of you, and here's a gift. And you can even put Merry Christmas on it. The Christmas spirit is still there. And then come March, something more. Okay? So with this, you keep finding ways, and this is what we did in my congregation, I think for like 6 months or so. I gave them something new, and my hope was that they would catch on and so forth. But something that they could do on the 25th of every month. Christmas doesn't have to end on the 25th of December. So with the depression that Christmas brings, and the depression that comes from grief, find some way to make someone else happy, and that's going to be the best thing you can do. The best thing you can do to overcome your own personal depression. Okay, acceptance is the final notation. The final notation to recovery. But the problem is, it's what you accept. When I say recovery, again, I'm not saying getting over, but I'm finding getting stronger. That's the stage of getting stronger, acceptance. But it's awesomely important of what you accept. If you deal with these other emotions in a positive way, you can accept things that are positive. You can accept that Christmas can be a celebrating time. You can accept that your anniversary can be a time of positive memory. You can do things on an anniversary that would just say, this person meant this much to me, and this is one thing we always wanted to do, and I'm not going to stop it now. I'm going to do it in their memory. All of these things you can do in a sense of accepting this as a challenge. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Accept each holiday as a challenge to find a new way to remember your loved one. Try it. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can do. Well, to sum this all up, let me go to the bottom line and suggest is nobody can do these things for you. This is something you're going to have to do for yourself. And I can't tell you how much to do or what to do, or I can't force you into this or that. You have to come to that conclusion yourself. But what I am telling you is, yes, holidays, anniversaries create a problem of memories that makes them difficult to go through. But the more you're willing to deal with them, the more you're willing to find ways to deal with them and to experiment with new ideas and new goals. Again, as long as you're not hurting yourself or someone else, these things can make your life stronger. It's not a matter of getting over the loved one, not a matter of getting over your losses. It's a matter of getting stronger each day as you deal with the things that are forever different. I hope this has been a help to you. Again, we invite you to check out our other sites on the YouTube and a variety of different topics, several of them on the subject of grief and again, some on anger management and a variety of topics. So we encourage you to include some of those others in your studies and in your research and so forth. You have a great day now. Enjoy your holiday, please. Thank you. Goodbye.